We are in Rhode Island as part of our series on Stories Without Borders. We are capturing the story of a phenomenal Gambian who, against all odds, set up something that is also phenomenal. We will tell you in a moment. My name is Ibrahima Balde.
I came here as a refugee myself, and this was in 2007, and it was a year after I was declared a wanted man in the Gambia for my work as a journalist in the Gambia. So I fled to Senegal, then to Ghana, and eventually, luckily, after 1 year of those tribulations, I was given refugee status and traveled to the United States. It was difficult, a big challenge, because I did not know Rhode Island until the day before I traveled. One day before traveling is when I heard about Providence and Rhode Island, that I was traveling here. So it was difficult. So I started from scratch, from the bottom. I did not know anybody here, no family, no friend. I did not know the Gambian community because they were mostly immigrants and I was a refugee, so there was a little bit of disconnect, especially not knowing whether they have access to Jammeh. I did not even know the Gambians, want the Gambians to know I was living here. So naturally, I had to build community, and that was by default the refugee community that I was part of, mostly Rwandans, Iraqi, and people from Liberia, other countries. So that naturally became my journey. So my life, I had always wanted to be a fighter for social justice and be an advocate. Initially I wanted to be a lawyer because I wanted to be a fighter for social justice. And that time the Gambia did not offer a law degree. I went to GTTI for 2 years, got a diploma in law, but that was it for me. And after that, the next option would have been to find something closer to lawyer, which was journalism for me. And after that, journalism also stalled after 7 years. In the Gambia, 6-7 years, I wanted to find my new form of advocacy, my new form of lawyering, my new form of journalism. And that is exactly what got me into this work of refugee support and refugee social services and advocacy. It was really the same thing that informed my life philosophy of wanting social justice and giving a voice to others and a platform to others to flourish. So I initially created a refugee advocacy group around 2008-9, and it was to bring together refugee community leaders working together to advocate for issues about housing and equality and equity and access to support and services. And that morphed into a new group called the Center for Refugee Advocacy and Support. And that, when I created that, I did it together with some community leaders. It did not work, because there are some little disagreements here and there. I decided to leave it with them. It did not work because I started it. I did not want any problems. I wanted to focus and do my thing. So when there are disagreements of direction and personalities, I quit. I left it, the Center for Refugee Advocacy and Support. Then I created what I really wanted to do because it was still the same idea. Then I went further to create the Refugee Dream Center. And officially in 2015, I got the 501c3 from IRS and officially became a registered non-profit, which is NGO in other countries, and started doing my work to serve refugees. So basically it's been a long journey going on, and initially it was just we were just doing refugee extended services, continuing services, but also filling gaps for as long as people need them. And we were not doing initial resettlement of refugees because that takes a lot of processes and times, of course, with advocacy. So about 3 years ago we got approved by the federal government. Now we have this partnership with the federal government through our national partners to be officially a resettlement agency. That was not easy. It took almost 7, 8, 9 years for us to get to that because it's a lot of work, a lot of networking and advocacy and contacts and connections. So luckily now we are one of 3 in the entire state that are officially resettlement agencies, meaning we work with the federal government to receive refugees directly that are newly entering the country, that are approved by the federal government, pick up from the airport and then work with them for the first 90 days. That's what reception and placement is. So now we're officially a resettlement agency, but our initial mission continues, which is to serve and work with individuals for as long as they need it. It could be years, it could be months, but it may not even be direct services. It could be just maybe advocacy, standing with them. Maybe it could be domestic violence or immigrants' rights or tenants' rights or other stuff. So, but creating that kind of community, like weaving communities together and building bridges, so that set of home away from home and connecting communities. So that mission continues in addition to the new contract that we had to be a reception and placement resettlement agency. Work with refugees from all over the world. So, actually, the idea is refugee self-help. And then that means most of, if not probably almost 90% of the staff here are either former refugees, former asylum seekers, or asylees and or immigrants. But of course there are Americans, people American born who are part of it. It's a very diverse staff pool. But the philosophy behind it is refugee self-help, where refugees help fellow refugees, that kind of self-empowerment. So we work with refugees from all over, different faiths, different ethnicities, different countries of origin, different languages. There are 39 languages spoken here between staff and board and volunteers. We work with anybody, from different abilities, diverse abilities and different identities and faiths, because that's for us, we believe in that holistic approach to work together. So so that is how they're connected to us. This federal government reaches out, we connected, then we have all the information, and then we have the travel arrangements and start doing the preparation to walk in, and we match them with case workers and then start working together. So eventually they're part of the Refugee Dream Center family. And sometimes some people do not come through the Refugee Dream Center. It's word of mouth, because maybe their family member, somebody referred them from a local mosque or church, or maybe from a community member from another family, somebody referred them here. Recently somebody came in here from Haiti. His brother was arrested by ICE. Guess what? A church in New York searched us and then gave him our information to come in here, even though he lives in Rhode Island. But a church in New York referred him here. So basically it's like a wide web of network and connections that people sometimes find us in. I had this idea, it's like a dream that I want to achieve. There is a dream that I want to achieve. So, and I want to empower immigrants and refugees to attain that dream. Basically, that's what led into that Refugee Dream Center. So we started renting out somewhere in a small room out of another agency, and most of the funding was me, my credit card, using my credit card to pay the rent, to buy basic things that are required. No funding, zero funding. It was all my credit card, my own funds funding it. Struggling, but I knew what I wanted. I knew what I want to do. And today, 10 years later, the budget is over $3 million. I have about 10, 20 full-time staff and volunteers and interns, and throughout the year it's more than 100 volunteers and interns that come at different times to support the work that we do. So if you count all those personnel, it's over 100 people doing some work here, one way or the other. And then we serve over 3,000 individuals from all walks of life, over $3 million in budget, serving and paying salaries. I mean, the smallest salary, if I'm right, if I recall, is $25 an hour. I think that is, phenomenal, given where most people is $15 an hour minimum wage. So we make sure people are served, people are happy, and then they're doing what they love doing. So the idea was, what would I settle for? What kind of example do I want to do? I was not sure whether I will get the money or not, but I studied for it. I went to do, my first master's was in public administration. And public administration is very broad. broad, but I deliberately focused on program theory of change and program development, because I wanted to be able to create my own programs, and be able to evaluate and implement programs, do budgeting, because I knew what I wanted to do. Because you cannot run this without understanding all those things, budgeting and program evaluation and implementation. So then I started building. Eventually, my hope was, I found a new love for psychology. I did a counseling psychology degree for my second master's in clinical counseling. Then I did my PhD in leadership and organizational psychology with a focus on neuroscience of psychology. I ran for U.S. Congress in 2022 when the then congressman retired, and we stepped in. One of my main challenges, listen to this, is the son of like a multi-millionaire or billionaire. So, and then he was a statewide official, a treasurer. So I braved through, and then there was a lot of pressure to step down, to not continue to endorse one of them because you are not supposed to. I went through to the very end of the primaries. We were the last 5 out of many candidates that ended, and I was the only person of color and the only black, and of course the only African. So we stated my policies, and of course my slogan was fulfill the dream. Like it was a promise. Now let's fulfill it. And then we promoted that notion, the message of the people that are from the lower levels of the social economic ladder, and also the people, immigrants and people with identities, to have a voice, because that is needed out there in Washington. And at some point they sabotaged my campaign. I couldn't continue because they came and started auditing. The federal government started auditing here, and they started auditing my agency. I spent almost 2 months here. I could not do the campaign because I had to be here to work with them, to provide paperwork and everything in the middle of the campaign. So my entire campaign was obstructed. So you see, many people don't even know that I haven't spoken about that, but it affected me a lot. That's just one of the examples of what black people go through, because you are not supposed to do it. You do, we'll come after you. And then luckily for me, we passed all those audits. Everything went through well. But I've gone through a lot of challenges, a lot of attacks, a lot of obstructions. But I bulldozed through and then go through that. And then that's why, so I'm happy I tried, because it's an opportunity for others, especially to learn from, and I can mentor others, and I can support and help others. For me, it is not a career like you run, you have to do it again, but at least an opportunity to learn. I learned a lot of new things, and I can probably help others to continue that voice and legacy.
What's your final message?
Yeah. Well, I think just be positive. Keep thinking positive. Nobody promised anybody that this life is going to be easy or be without obstacles. It's easy for people who wake up, sleep, wake up, and then eat, sleep, wake up, and that probably will be babies. But even for them, life is hard because you see them cry all the time. Sometimes they want to communicate, they cannot communicate properly. So even for people who do the barest of minimums, life is hard. There is struggle. The harder it is, the more struggles, the more that you realize that there's a purpose in life. So for me, that's why actually, my family, you can ask them, I hate celebrating birthdays. I don't celebrate milestones. I've graduated, I've done a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, 2 graduate level certificates and a PhD, 1 at Harvard for 6 months and another one for economic development for 2 years, and 2 master's degrees, a bachelor's and a PhD that I did for 5 years. The only time something was celebrated was when I graduated my PhD, and it was just a few pictures here and there. I don't like celebrating because I'm doing something else. What I'm like running against time. What I'm interested in is what I can achieve before I die. Just young people that you ask, my advice, think of what is the next step. Rather than basking in that glory, be next step ahead of everything that happens. Work hard, because again, nobody promised it will be easy. It's a struggle, and face it up.
Well, that's the story of Dr. Omar Bah, a Gambian who came to this country, and like a lot of pieces of advice people usually give, that it's not possible here in America, but that's not America for you. Immigrants can come here and make it, just like Native Americans themselves. So that's the story. Stories Without Borders continues. My name is Ibrahim Balde.